Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of The Devil House of Duskvale. My name is Ian, and I will be your narrator for today. Last episode, we introduced our party: Dr. Horace Vinberger, Goliath Barbarian; Kosef Berndeson, Human Paladin; Laylan the Squint, Wood Elf Ranger; and Bert, the Gnome Alchemist Artificer. As they were hired, along with 2 NPCs named Serial and Ragnar, to go investigate the old Castellanter Manor, an abandoned house sitting on a hill by the town of Duskvale. Their job was to investigate it and clear out any unsavory creatures that might have taken up residence inside during the house's abandonment. But as they began to search through the ancient corridors and dusty rooms, they began to find a lot of strange, fiendish influences on the house, some sort of tie between the Castellanters and the Nine Hells, culminating with a battle between the party and 2 bearded devils inside of a room locked with a magical seal. They also came across the ghost of a young girl. She named herself as Ellie, the young daughter of the Castellanters who had suddenly and mysteriously died before the family moved out of the house. When we last left off, the 4 adventurers were climbing the stairs to the 2nd floor, intent on revisiting the nursery, the room that had once been home to the Castellanters' mysterious 4th child, about whom nothing was known, not even their name. But as Kosef opened the door, he found that the room before him was not the room that he had left earlier in the day, because since that time, night had fallen, and a number of strange changes had occurred. When they entered the room before during the day, it had looked largely mundane, in fact, possibly the least remarkable room that they encountered. There was a crib, a mobile of angels, an armoire, nothing you wouldn't expect to find in a nursery. Except that when they had first been here, all of the metal in the room, the crib, the mobile, the handles of the armoire, had been made of silver or iron. But now they had taken on the appearance of burnished gold or brass, and it seemed to emanate some strange glow, a malevolent energy into the room. The party hesitates a moment, but then enters. Looking around, Vinberger looks up and sees that the mobile of angels, while also changed in material, has also changed in form. The angels that had hung there before are gone, their forms replaced instead by tiny, grinning imps. He crosses to the armoire and knocks one of the handles off with his maul. He takes the metal up in one hand and finds it strangely warm, as if it had some kind of internal heat. Quickly, he carries it outside, hoping to see whether the effect of the nursery is isolated to that room, or indeed something that had befallen the whole house. But as he enters the hallway, he finds that the handle does not change back to the iron it had once been. In fact, the longer he holds it, the hotter it gets, and he has to drop it on the floor to avoid being burned. He returns to the room and finds Kosef standing over a small, circular rug, very similar to the rug that Ellie had been trapped in, and about the same size as the circle through which the bearded devils had been summoned in the iron room. Fearing a repeat incident, Kosef rolls it up under one arm and carries it over to the balcony adjoining the nursery. With one good heave, he throws it over the edge, and it flies about 3 feet, before striking an invisible barrier and rebounding back over Kosef's head, landing on the floor where it had laid before and rolling itself flat, as if it had never been moved. Suddenly panicked, Vinberger rolls it up and stuffs it in the armoire, closing the door. And in that moment, Kosef returns from the balcony and cringes as his divine sense once again picks up the evil, malevolent energy of the room, a force that only gets stronger the closer he gets to the metal. And then, suddenly, the others realize just how hot they are. They're sweating. Their faces are hot and red. Some of them even start to feel a little bit dizzy. They flee from the oppressive atmosphere of the room, back out into the hallway. Vinberger slams the door behind them, and they pause a moment in the cool, musty air, taking deep breaths as they regain their composure. Finally, Kosef looks up, glances to the bathroom door, and then back to Laylan. "Well, Laylan, I think it's about time we lit some candles. What do you say?" The elf nods, suddenly quite excited. The group returns to the bathroom where, previously, They had found a pair of red candles, nearly burned down to the wick, at the base of a large, fogged-up mirror. 2 candles which Kosef had quickly swept into his bag the day before. Now he lays them out again, pulling out a tinderbox and lighting them. Quickly, he steps back, raising his sword, and the rest of the party follow suit. Preparing for combat, they stand back, staring at the mirror, waiting for something to come through. But nothing does. There's silence in the room. Everything is still. Laylan takes a step closer to the mirror, looks at his reflection, and then breathes on the mirror, fogging it up further. He stands there for a moment, waiting for it to clear. And when it does, he's looking at his reflection again. He smirks and raises his eyebrows. And his reflection grins back at him, with a pair of sharp, pointy teeth and fiery orange eyes. Laylan leaps back, gasping, as his reflection starts to climb out of the mirror. He raises his bow, drawing back an arrow, but his reflection shouts, "Wait! Wait! Don't hurt me!" Laylan hesitates, letting the tension out of his string, but Kosef just starts shouting, "Kill it! Kill it! Kill it!" He swings his sword at the creature as Bert unleashes a ray of frost. The spell strikes the creature in the arm an instant before Kosef's strike digs into its side. The reflection snarls and seizes Kosef's arm before he can pull his sword away. It gives a malevolent grin and leaps back into the mirror, disappearing out of sight, dragging a screaming Kosef with it. Laylan lunges for the paladin's feet, but just misses, the metal boot slipping through his fingers and then through the silvery surface of the mirror, and out of sight. Bert, Laylan, and Vinberger are left standing alone in the room, uncertain of what to do. Vinberger steps up to the mirror and tries to reach through it, but his hand only hits cool, hard silver. Looking inside, they see no one but themselves. And then suddenly, Kosef's face reappears, bisected down the middle by the vertical crack running the length of the mirror. It splits into 2 faces that drift towards either side of the mirror, and then 2 mailed hands reach out of its surface, and 2 Kosefs clamber out of the mirror. Simultaneously, they see each other, and their eyes widen. They point at each other, shouting, "Kill it!" over top of each other. Laylan, Bert, and Vinberger glance between the 2, uncertain. "I'm the real Kosef, I promise you," one of them says. Bert narrows his eyes. "Tell me a funny joke." I'm sorry," one of the Kosefs says. I don't know any funny jokes." "Do you both bleed?" Laylan asks, lifting his bow, but one of the Kosefs raises its arms. "What do you mean? Of course I bleed. I'm a human." "What's my name, then?" Vinberger asks. The Kosef looks at him. "Well, of course I know your name. Your name is Horace. You're Dr. Horace. He's the fake. Trust me." The other Kosef gives the speaker an angry glance and raises his sword high over his head, igniting it with a sacred glow before bringing it down on the duplicate. The other Kosef screams as a divine smite of radiant energy bursts from the blade on impact. The injured Kosef stumbles back and raises his own sword, exactly mirroring the movement of the first, igniting the blade with blinding white light. He brings it down on the other Kosef with an explosion of energy, nearly identical to the attack of the first, although Bert senses something off about it. Somehow it lacks the tangible strength of the first, as if it were only an illusion. "All right, stop fighting! Stop fighting!" Laylan says, stepping in between the 2 Kosefs. The one who retaliated shies back. "Please, just help me! Get me away from that thing!" "But how do we know you're you?" "Guys, don't let it kill me! Please!" The other Kosef swings his sword again, but Laylan catches the blade in the crook of his bow and twists it out of Kosef's hand. It falls to the floor with a loud clatter. But just at that moment, as Laylan pushes the 2 duplicates further apart, Vinberger is suddenly struck with an idea. He ducks out of the room, running over to where he had left the armoire handle outside of the nursery. He picks it up in a cloth so as to avoid being burned, and runs back into the room just in time to see Laylan smash the mirror with the side of his bow, causing one of the Kosefs to, ever so slightly, wince. And in that moment, Laylan turns on him, bow drawn, as Vinberger shoves the armoire handle under his nose. The Kosef looks down, confused, before pushing Vinberger out of the way and returning his attention to Laylan. The Goliath smiles triumphantly and holds out the shining gold to the other Kosef, who wrinkles his nose at the smell, his divine sense reacting to the evil force within. And as one, the party wheels on the fake Kosef, who opens his mouth to speak, but Laylan loses an arrow into his side, followed by an onslaught from the others, beating it bloody. The fake Kosef tries to pull away, but Laylan grabs it by the back of the neck and slams its head into the sink, cracking the porcelain. It sprawls to the ground, transforming into an incubus. An incubus with mirror shards set into its skin. It lunges for the window, a set of large, leathery wings unfurling from its back as it attempts to take flight and soar out away from the house. But just as it clears the windowsill, Laylan dives for it and catches its heel in his hand. He holds firm and begins to drag it back into the house with the help of Kosef and Vinberger. Finally, they hurl it to the floor, and the Goliath manages to finish it off, leaving Kosef standing, shaking, over the body. "What happened in there?" Laylan asks, looking at Kosef, but Kosef remains silent. What he had experienced inside the mirror had been a blank void, a nothingness, a limbo state that seemed to last forever. He looks down at the incubus. "I don't want to talk about it. Smash it more." The paladin starts to kick the devil's body, stomping on it with his heavy metal boots until it's barely more than a bloody mess on the floor. As he does so, Vinberger employs some of his skills as a doctor to bandage up Kosef's wounds, restoring some of his hit points. Bert also heals the paladin some with a cure wound spell, as well as Kosef himself, who uses his own lay on hands to restore the remainder of his missing hit points. Now in the aftermath of the battle, the group decides it's prudent to take a short rest. But they're not quite sure where to go. After all, most of the rooms they went in had something odd or mysterious about them, and even the ones where they didn't fight anything had a sinister air to them. Laylan uses his ranger's ability, Primeval Awareness, to search for the signature energy signs that devils, fae, and demons leave in the material plane, and immediately his awareness is assaulted by the feeling of hundreds, if not thousands, of fiends patrolling the house. Most weak, but a handful quite strong. The infernal presence is so oppressive that Laylan can't even isolate their locations. Nearly every room in the house seems absolutely infested, with the fourth floor containing particularly nasty creatures. The group realizes that there's nowhere safe to rest, so they ultimately decide to go downstairs, to rest in the library or the foyer. After all, they didn't fight anything there. They found a few odd things, like the bloody kitchen knives and the sigil of Asmodeus in the study, but no tangible threats. They begin to walk down the hall, but as they go, Vinberger decides to just peek into Terenzio's bedroom, to see if it underwent the same strange changes that the nursery did. But he's taken aback to see the room exactly as they left it. Nothing has happened here. There's no changing of iron and silver into burnished brass. It just looks like a child's bedroom. Vinberger enters further, and Kosef follows, sniffing the air with his divine sense, and realizing that it smells clean. This is the most mundane room that they've been in. More mundane than the foyer, more mundane than the servants' quarters. It's just a bedroom. And so they decide to take their rest here. Although before they do so, Kosef remembers a certain promise he made to Ellie, to see her dance again. He crosses the hallway to the young girl's room, followed by the others. They wind up her music box and set it on the table. A moment later, she rises from the small, circular rug near the center of the room. Her eyes widen as she sees Kosef still covered in his own blood. "Are you guys all right?" she asks. "It's just our work." Bert nods. "We're fine. Don't worry about it." "What did you see?" Kosef removes his helmet and sits down beside Ellie's circle, wiping some of the blood from his face. "I think we saw some of those creatures that you were talking about, Ellie. We fought a couple of them." Ellie nods, and suddenly the paladin senses a certain guilt in the air. "Okay, I have a confession," she says, voice nervous at first, but Kosef gives her a reassuring smile. After a moment, she continues. "I know what most of the creatures look like. There's this thing with a lot of hair, and there's this really scary snake. I don't like the snake." "Do these live on the 4th floor?" "A lot of them live on the 3rd floor. That's where only Mommy and Daddy were allowed to go. If we went up there or even got on the stairs to go up there, we were given a lot of time out. And we didn't like time out because we had to go in the cellar." "There's a cellar too?" A look of resigned defeat comes over Bert's face. "Is there anything in the cellar, Ellie?" "No, that's exactly the point of it. I wouldn't really call it a cellar, though. It's more of a crawl space. We would go and they would put a blindfold on us, and they dripped this warm liquid down our face to make it feel like we were drowning.
So it's a torture dungeon.
It wasn't very big. You go outside and there's this little ladder in the backyard. We had to crouch, and they would hit our knees with these canes so that we couldn't try to stand up. Ellie lifts the hem of her dress to reveal dark, shadowy scars covering her knees and legs. A shadow passes over Kosef's face.
Ellie, I'm very sorry about that. I know what you went through. Do you want to dance for us?
The look of glee returns to Ellie's face. I do! And so the four watch again as Ellie spins and twirls inside of her small circle, filling the room with a warm glow. Her performance is shorter this time, only lasting about 15 minutes. When she's done, Kosef applauds and starts to reach for his bag.
Ellie, I found something. I think they belong to you.
He pulls out the small pink bag from the tailor's room.
I found these hair clips.
A look of terror comes over the young girl's face before a loud "No!" fills the room. The music box slams shut and Ellie vanishes. A cool wind drifts along the back of the party's necks, just as it had when they first entered. In an instant, Kosef and Vinberger are out in the hallway.
Get rid of them! Get rid of them! Throw them out the window!
Burn them,
Bert says, joining in. Kosef opens the bag and sniffs the inside, recoiling at the fiercely evil stench within.
Everything in this house is evil, Vinberger says.
Kosef shakes the bag's contents into the palm of his gauntlet, seeing that the clips have changed from pure pink to a rose gold, and are radiating heat. Looking closer, he sees that a few strands of hair have also appeared inside, blonde like Ellie's, and also radiating heat. Kosef stuffs the clips back into their pouch.
We need a fucking furnace.
We need a friggin' exorcist!
Kosef slips the pink pouch back into his bag. Laylan glances at Ellie's door and then back to the paladin.
Are we gonna go back there and talk to her, or...
Vinberger shakes his head.
Let's give it a little bit of time.
Kosef nods at the Goliath's words.
We'll take a short rest and go talk to her again and apologize for the hairpin thing.
The four walk back across the hallway to Terenzio's room, where they take their short rest, sleeping or meditating for about 3 hours. At about 1 o'clock a.m., they wake up. But as they do so, Laylan catches something out of the corner of his eye. A small, purple spider perched in the corner of the room. Normally he wouldn't think anything of it, but thinking back, Laylan suddenly recalls seeing that same spider in the tailor's room, in the bathroom, in the library. Either there was an identical purple spider in the corner of every room, or they were being followed. Laylan draws his bow and looses an arrow. It embeds itself in the creature, which explodes in a puff of smoke, reverting to the form of an imp. It falls to the ground and lies motionless, an arrow in its chest. They had been being followed. The group hastens downstairs to check on Cyril and Ragnar, but finds them both still looking through books in the library. But while they're down there, the party decides to check in again on the study, where they had found the sigil of Asmodeus, remembering another small, circular rug. Exactly the same as the one that had been in the nursery, and in Ellie's room. They go inside and see it, resting under the feet of the black wood desk sitting in the center of the room. Quickly, they shift the furniture and pull the rug out from underneath. Vinberger takes it in both hands and tries to rip the carpet in two. But as he tries, even with his tremendous strength, he finds it impossible, as if he were trying to rip steel. Realizing that he won't be able to destroy it, he quickly rolls it up and stuffs it in the desk drawer. Having done all they can, the group decides to head back upstairs. But as they turn to exit the room, they see Cyril and Ragnar entering behind them, and the two start to go through the small bookshelves in the study. Laylan holds out a hand.
Hey, you guys should take the books and go ahead and move them to the library and read them there. Please do that for me, because this place,
he gestures around the study,
is evil.
He points down the hallway towards the library.
Less evil.
Cyril shrugs and scoops a pile of books into his arms. Ragnar follows suit. Kosef pats the half-orc on the shoulder on his way out.
Keep perusing, guys. Keep doing good work.
The party walks up the stairs again and enters Ellie's room for the third time. They wind up the music box and set it on the desk. After a moment, a hesitant figure appears on the rug.
Hey, Ellie,
Kosef says, taking a few cautious steps closer.
We are very sorry about the,
Ellie frowns and looks at the ground. The person who used to be the tailor, she was really, really mean.
She used to tell me and my brother to call her auntie, and when we didn't listen, she'd put these clips in our hair and she'd pull. She was really strong, and she was really tall, too. She was taller than you are.
She points at Vinberger. He blinks, taken aback. I'm 7'8".
Yeah. She had to duck.
The party suddenly recalls their trip to the tailor's room, and remembers that the ceilings there had been 2 feet higher than anywhere else in the house. Ellie continues.
She used to grab those hair clips and shake us in the air until we bled from our scalps. It was really mean.
That sounds very mean.
Do you want to dance for us again?
Ellie nods, and once again the 4 adventurers watch as the young girl starts to move in sync with the music. And they suddenly appreciate for the first time just how odd it is that their greatest comfort in this house is watching the ghost of a little girl dancing in the shadows. Another 15 minutes pass, and the party departs the room, saying their goodbyes to Ellie. And as they emerge back out into the hallway, they catch sight of the single, solitary door standing at the far end of the corridor. The door leading up to the 3rd floor. An unspoken agreement passes between them, and, slowly, they begin to approach. And that's where I'll leave off this episode. Thank you all for watching, and join me next time when we'll find out exactly what lies on the 3rd floor of Castellanter Manor. Until then, thanks for watching Episode 2 of The Devil House of Duskvale.